Hello, people of the internet. My name is JD Shadow, and I need to say just 3 words. Screw you, Jimmy. Yes, I need to say that because Jim Sterling thinks that in order to combat the problems that are going on in the AAA video game industry, we also have to take a look at the indie scene and how we treated one of the people who he is funding. I am talking about Zoe Quinn.
You can't fix the indie space while so few care, and those who speak up are bullied by developer and gamer alike.
Where is the report on that? What about the report on Crash Override Network? The very same network in which she claimed to have it be used for an anti-harassment organization, but in actuality was just a thing in which gave her protection against anybody who dared to criticize her. What about all the times in which she has reportedly harassed several video game journalists in order to promote positive stories about her and to silence any kind of criticism against her whatsoever and to blacklist anybody who dares to challenge her in any sort of way or push in an allegation against a video game developer so hard that he felt the need to commit suicide? How about that? How about we report on that? No one should harass anybody in the video game industry. No one should harass anybody who has anything to do with video gaming. No one should harass anybody. That much is for certain. But you can call that out while calling out people who are perpetrating the harassment within your own circle. And keep this in mind, Jim Sterling is the person who is funding her Kickstarter campaign. And yet, he still will not call any of this out, but will call out people who are calling her out and calling that harassment. That is not harassment. Are people doing things the wrong way? Yes, but you can call that out while still calling her out at the same time. Those are not diametrically opposed to each other. You can do both. And right now, they're calling the normal calling out of somebody as harassment. And that is not okay. That is not fair. That is not kosher for anybody to try to conflate. And then to blame gamers for what is happening with Activision Blizzard. Keep in mind, not every single employee that was in these places within Ubisoft, within Insomniac, within Activision Blizzard is perpetuating these acts. If you want to change something that has come from the higher up, I do agree, it has come from the higher up. It has to go from the top and go back down. From the person who is enabling such things to the persons who are committing such atrocities. But you can't just blame gamers for every single last thing like Blizzard is trying to do to a certain extent right now. You can't do that. And you can't blame every single person because there are some people within these companies that are doing great jobs. They're trying to do the right thing. They're trying to do what is best for all of us. They're working damn hard and we shouldn't blame them for the misdeeds of the company. This is a widespread problem, but we have to go about it the right way, and we have to call out everybody who is committing to these crimes. No, don't harass Zoe Quinn, but you are within your right to call her out if she is doing something wrong, which she has done plenty wrong. She has harassed a lot of us into silence for her misdeeds and to harass others into being silenced in order to call out for where is this game, this Kickstarter game that she said was being developed and she needed money for, yet she says nothing to her backers. And Jim Sterling is still going to not even say anything to that, but call anybody out who dares to call her out. Yeah, that's a very big problem. And it needs to be called out, especially now when there is so much heightened awareness to this issue. An issue which, by the way, if you guys weren't so fixated on blowing up issues like a poster in Cyberpunk 2077 or complaining that Troy Levitt was hired by somebody or that the developer of The Last Night existed, then you know what? We would be able to focus on these bigger issues. What you brought up with the Cyberpunk 2077 poster was a distraction to what was really going on with crunch at that point in time. Because quite frankly, Reset Era didn't give a crap about that. They cared more about whether or not we had a problematic poster, which was really problematic. It was blown way out of proportion and taken way out of context and could only have been one thing to those people, and said that should have been the bigger issue, not that there was any kind of crunch involved. And what happened as a direct result? We had a shoddy product, a seizure-inducing product, which, by the way, according to Leonard Kurtzner, that whole thing with the brain dance has not been fixed. It is still producing problems to this day. We still have not got that fixed. We still are waiting for patch after patch after patch for that game because it was not ready to be released. Even after, 6 years? It still hadn't been released. And if you hadn't distracted us with a poster, then we would have been able to call that out. Or we would be able to call out any of these other atrocities. If you would have been with us on the Free Hong Kong situation, then maybe we would have been able to figure this out well before this lawsuit came about. So please spare me this whole idea of right now we can't change anything until we change something else or burn it all down to the ground. You had your chance to do that. We gave you the chance to do that, to be honest with gamers everywhere. Yet you cared more about trying to condemn gamers because they called you out on your atrocities and you giving them every benefit of the doubt and turning a blind eye for everything else. And now you made this bet. And I'm not saying every single journalist out there has contributed to this mentality that you're turning a blind eye to any of it, but this is something that could have been avoided had you not tried to distract people by caring more about who Scott Cawthorn donated to in a political campaign, or that Troy Levitt was actually developing a game when he was calling you out at the same time. God forbid he was employed anywhere, or a poster in a game which you took way out of proportion and you read way too much into what was going on. Had you focused more on stuff like this and actual atrocities like this, maybe we would have found out a whole lot sooner and it wouldn't have came to this point. I'm not saying that you contributed to the hostile work environments in these places, but you certainly turned a blind eye to it. You certainly did your job in ignoring it. And then you want to turn around and say that somebody who has contributed to the toxicity of the indie developmental scene and say that the reason why all of this is going on partially is because we are calling her out? No, you don't get to say that. You don't get to just do that. And the only reason that Jim Sterling is even bringing up Zoe Quinn is because he funded that Kickstarter campaign, which is vaporware right now. And he is too much of a wuss to say, hey, I screwed up. Or maybe he's still friends with her or something. And yes, on every other aspect of this, yes, he calls things out and I commend him for it. But this is the one thing that is a sticking point. This is the one thing that he can't get past. This is the one thing he can't do for some reason. If he is really friends with her, if he's really her friend, then he would not cover her ass on this. He would not cover for her on this. He would say, hey, it's not okay to harass her, but it's okay to call her out. You could do both. You could condemn the people who are being vitriolic, being hateful, sending her death threats, and still say, you know what, you need to be called out for not delivering on your promises. Which, by the way, Kickstarter has no safeguard against stuff like that. Indiegogo does. Kickstarter does not. Keep that in mind. And true friends, and I know because people, my friends, have done this to me. When I've done wrong, they've called me out on it. You don't think for 1 second they would protect me if I did something wrong? No, they would come for me and say, you know what, you need to apologize for this. You need to say something about this. You need to not do this anymore because it's hurting your reputation. That is tough love, and maybe you need to do that. It is okay to do that as a friend. It is okay to say, hey, you screwed up here. You need to rectify this. And I'm doing this, I'm saying this because I don't want to see you fall. But yet, apparently, being her friend means you have to excuse every last little thing she does, even if it hurts her bottom line. And we're not saying this because we're trying to attack her. We're saying this because it's the truth. We're saying this because we don't want to see this happen. We want to protect video game workers and people who have these kinds of jobs. We don't want to see people be susceptible to stuff like cube crawls or have to take their own lives because they felt so harassed. We want to protect these workers at Ubisoft. We want to protect these people at Insomniac. We want to protect these people at Activision Blizzard who got susceptible to this garbage. But we can't do that if we're spending all our time complaining about a goddamn poster in a video game. We can't do that if we're complaining about somebody donating money to a political candidate you don't like, or doing what they should be doing and calling you guys out when you're doing something wrong. We can't call out people like Activision Blizzard when they're doing crap like this when we're too busy being distracted because you don't know how to take a criticism. And we sure as hell can't do our jobs if you are going to protect somebody who's doing the exact same thing you're condemning Activision Blizzard of doing. And you know what? The fact that people from all over the place in the YouTube sphere, in the blogosphere, are condemning all this is proof that we are not against defending people when they are being harassed and being threatened and being put through this garbage. So don't come saying that we're not with any of these people who are being harassed at these game companies. We are. It's just we can't get to it because you're so distracted by these petty BS stuff that really, in the grand scheme of things, doesn't really matter when you have people who are getting harassed like this at Activision Blizzard and these other game companies saying, why are you so concerned about that when we're getting put through the ringer time in and time out? Why are you so worried about what Scott Cawthorn did with his money when we're begging, pleading for someone that could talk to a Polygon to give a crap about this sort of thing happening within our company and to do something about it and to not be worried if they blacklist you for it? Because if you cover it and you get blacklisted, that means that you got to something they're scared of you knowing. The fact that when these sort of stories come out that everybody's on the same side should tell you something. This should explain something to you. Yeah, instead of trying to say, you know what, we are on the same page on this subject, instead of doing that, you try to divide us still. Why can't you say just once we're on the same side here? And that this isn't a mission of, hey, us YouTubers are not the bad guys here. We're trying to tell you how to do your job. We shouldn't have to do that. You are the quote-unquote experts here. The fact that it takes us to do that for you is very telling and very pathetic. And then try to say that Zoquid is perfectly innocent in any of this and that she didn't contribute to the toxicity of video game culture right now, that is absolutely pathetic. No, it's not in the same realm as a cube crawl or harassing every single female employee in your company, but Zoquid did something kind of similar to what these people at Activision Blizzard did to that female employee that committed suicide. And say what you want about the accusation she made, but that didn't have to go to that extreme, especially when she has a history and especially when there was no corroboration or when there was no evidence beyond her accusation. I am not in the realm of accusation equals evidence. I'm not in the realm of that. I'm not going to subscribe to that. I'm sorry, I can't. So unless Jim is ready to address those points, and unless Jimmy is ready to say, hey, this is something Zoe has been accused of, and she can't just keep blocking people on Twitter who dare to call her out on it because it's something she really has to say something about, and where the hell is that game that you promised people you would make, and you took money from people for, and then ran away and left them holding the bag with the bill in it and without a game? Unless you're going to call that out, please spare us the virtue signaling, because it's not going to help you at all. Stop blaming gamers for this. Stop blaming us for this. Stop blaming YouTube for this. Stop blaming the people on YouTube who are calling you out for this. Look towards yourself. Look in the goddamn mirror. Such as people like Activision Blizzard or Ubisoft or Insomniac have to do right now. And to clean this crap up. Because you're right, it does have to come from the top. Guess who is taking money from the top? Yeah, you guessed it. She's part of that elite. She's part of that establishment now. She's part of that. She is no way an independent game developer. We need to stop defending her. We need to stop defending her if she gets even the slightest bit of being called out. She is far from a victim in any of this. No, don't harass her, but you have the right and the obligation to, at the very least, call things out when you see it, and she is doing the exact thing that you claim to call people out on. Please do that much. Why is she exempt from any sort of consequence when these AAA game developers, who, by the way, are deserving of wrath, are getting the wrath that you should be giving her as well? We should not have to do your job for you, Jimmy. We should not have to do your job for you. You're doing it right on everything else. Why can't you do it here? Towards somebody who should be your friend, because friends should do this. Friends should tell other friends, hey, you're doing it wrong. And looking out for a friend means doing something that maybe is tough love, maybe something you don't want to do, but you should have to do. Maybe if we weren't so distracted of all the other petty stuff that we had to cover because the media was so engraved in trying to say that was a big deal, and we tried to say, hey, it's not. If it wasn't for that, maybe we were caught at this a hell of a lot sooner than we did. It's a good thing we did now before it got way worse and we were distracted by something else that was petty. Hearts go out to the people who had to endure this sort of thing from these AAA game companies. And apologies that we were too distracted to see what was going on here. We should have gotten to it a hell of a lot sooner than we did. But hopefully we can make it up to you now by making sure that something like this never happens again, at least on our watches. My name's JJ Shadow, that just happened.